Dill Castle was built in 1539 by Henry VIII and was the earliest in a line of coastal defences. They were built to protect England from the Catholic invasion from Spain and France. On the castle, the outer walls were rounded to add strength and more protection from cannon fire. This was constructed with over 200 cannon and gun ports. The anticipated battle never occurred, so the first action these castles had was in the Second Civil War. There were a lot of Navy ships around that area, so when the Navy switched sides and was now Royalist forces, the castle was taken under Royalist control, until it was besieged by Parliamentary forces and soon forced to surrender. Since the 1700s, the castle has had a captain who commanded the garrison stationed there, although today the title is purely an honourable one. After that, the castle was fortified and improvements were made both in the 18th and 19th centuries. It is shaped like a Tudor rose, being perfectly symmetrical, with a low circular keep at its centre. The keep, which is 270 feet in diameter, is surrounded by 6 circular bastions, and this is all enclosed by an outer wall which consists of 6 circular bastions. These outer bastions controlled access to the dry moat. It is larger and of a more complex design than nearby Walmer and Sandown castles, and the guns were positioned on the keep and bastions to give 3 tiers of armament. Dill Castle is built of Kentish ragstone, brick and Caen stone reused from nearby dissolved religious houses. Originally, the castle had 145 gun ports on 5 tiers. There was a continuous gallery known as the Rounds at the basement level of the bastions that had 53 hand gun ports to provide flanking fire of the bottom of the moat. The castle buildings are further protected by a stone-lined dry moat and a gatehouse. The gatehouse was equipped with a number of defensive features including murder holes and a gun port. The rounded walls allow much more flexible fields of fire against movable targets, naval ships. The platforms on top of the outer bastions sloped outwards so that the guns rolled back to the walls after recoiling. They have no embrasures, probably because the ability to move guns around the bastions to meet different targets were considered more valuable than protection from relatively inaccurate fire from the decks of rocking ships that would have been offered by embrasures. The outer bastions have gun ports to allow musket fire to cover the moat. There is a sally port between 2 bastions to give the defenders the ability to make counter-attacks into the moat. Behind the outer bastions there was an inner moat covered by gun ports from the inner fortress. This permitted the garrison to abandon the outer bastions and retreat inside the inner defences if the enemy had breached the walls. It seems likely that the crenulations currently visible on the inner walls and gatehouse were added in the 17th century, and replaced the more conventional embrasures. Impressively, the castle was completed in 1540 after just 1 year's work. The immediate threat of invasion had pressed construction deadlines and the castle needed to be defensible as soon as possible. The basement of the fortress was a storage space for ammunition and food, with a well for water. The middle tier contained the kitchens and accommodation for the garrison, and the upper tier held the officers' quarters. The entrance to the castle traverses the westernmost outer bastion, which has an additional storey to give it extra strength. This gatehouse acts as a primitive demi-lune and has a kinked entrance path to slow attackers. The moat around the castle was never designed to hold water, its sheer scale and the vertical stone outer wall in themselves providing formidable obstacles. Originally, Henry VIII's engineers would have built a drawbridge here. How this worked is uncertain, but the 2 circular holes above the gate may have been for ropes used to haul up the bridge. In the roof of the passageway are 5 holes designed to allow defenders above to rain down missiles or to use handguns on any attackers below. On the seaward bastions are mounted 4 32-pounder guns from around the 1800s. These are known as Bloomfield pattern guns. On the right-hand side of the room are a series of brick ovens built into the rear of the southeast inner bastion. The larger of these is original, as is the great kitchen fireplace. The kitchen would have been separated from the rest of the ground floor by partitions which have long since gone. This chapel was created after the First World War by Field Marshal Sir John French, the 1st Earl of Ypres, soon after his appointment in 1923 as captain of Dill Castle. When it was first built, the central staircase was an outstanding example of the skills of Tudor carpenters and joiners. It was originally a double staircase with each circular stair starting off at ground level from the 2 existing doorways opposite each other and using the same central newel post. The captain of the castle was the senior military officer in charge of the garrison. One of the longest serving was Captain William Byng. He held office from 1609 until the castle passed into parliamentary control at the outbreak of the Civil War in 1642. He was briefly reappointed in 1660. Just beside this postern gate, a narrow passageway runs right round the outer bastions known as the Rounds. This well was used to supply the castle with water. Just after Christmas 1539, Anne of Cleves and her retinue landed at Dil. She was briefly entertained at the castle, which was not yet finished.